Hi guys, it's Dagon. Sorry for the costume change. I didn't realize how scary I looked. And I was in a sweater and it was starting to get hot. And I was really tired of the glare that was coming off my glasses. It was distracting me. And I don't need any help being distracted. So I was at so So I really didn't want to use the walker because I just felt like it meant that I was giving up. And I was hurting, I was tired. At the same time, we were losing our house because I lost my job, and there was no way that without both of our incomes that we were going to be able to keep the house. So on top of all of this, on top of the medical bills that were coming in, we were losing our house too. And that was really hard. So I'm sure a lot of you guys out there have lost your homes to foreclosure too. While it was very traumatic, and it was very traumatic, to be completely honest with you, it was one of the best things that could have ever happened to us. It really was. But then, I I believe and know that the big guy can make lemonade out of lemons. So I started using the walker, and while I was a little better, I was still in so much pain, and it was still horrible pain. So, and again, I was still in bed most of the day, majority of the day. My cousin's wedding was coming up, and she asked me to help put, do some stuff for that. And so I was working on that and kind of pushing myself a little bit, to try and get some stuff done. And it was around that same time. Actually, it was the day before her wedding that. Well, and actually, it was before that things started getting bad. It was the day before her wedding that I lost things completely. I had woken up one morning a couple months before her wedding. Her wedding was in Thanksgiving. It was around Thanksgiving. So I had woken up one morning, and I went to put my feet on the floor, and there was nothing there. I mean, it was all gone. There was no feeling. And over the next couple days, the lack of feeling started crawling up my feet. And the next month, it crawled up my legs. And, up to my knees. And it got to the point where the day before my cousin's wedding, I woke up and from the waist down, I like people. So you could touch, my knee or my foot, and there was no feeling there. It was gone, completely gone. Even though I still had the pain that was in my back, in my lower back, and it like radiated out to my hips, and there was still horrible pain, but I couldn't feel my legs. And I, when you can't feel your legs, it's kind of hard to move them. And then, the pain that I was in, it had gotten to the point where I was staying every day in bed. And even laying in bed, taking a deep breath was painful. Breathing was painful. Like, I would try to hold my breath because it hurt so bad just to breathe, much less move. So for Christmas that year, I got a wheelchair. Um, mm, so crazy. And that was really hard for me to accept because, again, I felt like I was giving up. Um, but man, once I did it, it made it so that when I did get out, um, well, it made it so I could get out because I wasn't able to. I mean, my husband would have to literally lift me and move each one of my legs individually. And I'm not a small girl. It was definitely difficult for him to pick me up and move my legs individually. So getting the wheelchair was definitely a blessing. Um, but the October, while this was all happening, in October, our attorney won our case against Workman's Comp. And Workman's Comp was required to, take care of things. Um, and so, I mean, I knew that there was something wrong. And so we had gone back to the surgeon who had done the surgery. And he says, well, there's obviously something wrong. You got no feeling. You can't move your legs. There's obviously something wrong. So let's get you in for a CT myelogram. And boys and girls, if you've never had one of those, let me tell you, it's definitely kind of an interesting experience. One of the other things that they wanted to do was I think it's I'm going to have to look it up. But it's basically where they stick needles into your legs to try and get, or to wear whatever body part you're having problems with. They stick needles into your legs, and then they run electricity and juice you, kind of shock you. And then they are supposed to be able to get electrical responses back. So my doctor was going to order these tests, but when our case got won, things were all going to be switched over to Workman's Comp. Workman's Comp was going to, as far as seeing doctors and getting help and such. So I went and had the CT myelogram done in January. And it was really an interesting test. There was the doctor who did it, and then there was a nurse in the room. And the doctor who did it was kind of interesting. They stick a needle in basically your spinal cord, and then they run fluid through it, and then they take x-rays to see if they can see, what's going on. I guess it's just a better way to take a picture to actually see kind of what's going on. And, I really had no feeling. And the nurse who was there, I was nervous just because, I'm a little nervous with needles. The nurse I asked her if she'd hold my hand. She was holding my hand, and when the doctor started the procedure, she looked at me just kind of baffled, and she's like, "Don't you feel anything?" And this was my lower back, or getting to the point in my legs, where there was no feeling. Might have to. I don't know if this is going to stop at 10 minutes. So if this stops at 10 minutes, I'll resume. I guess I might get to keep going for a little bit. So, and she says, don't you feel that? And I said, no, I don't. And she's like, I don't believe it. She's like, you must really have something going on. She's like, we have grown men who come in here and have this done, and they're screaming. Grown men, big men who, think they're so tough, and they scream, and you're not saying anything. And there must really be something going on with you. And, so he was finishing the procedure, and he went to pull the needle out. And when he pulled the needle out, it was the weirdest feeling in the world. It was literally, I felt this from the start, and it started from like the top of my head, and it was just like, whenever you see a gauge, and like you could see the fluid go, woo, that's what it felt like in my head. It felt like, starting here, it felt like, woo, and the lights went out, and I blacked out. And when I came to, the nurse was there, and she had a cold rack on my head. And she said, honey, are you with us? And I said, yeah, and I had just a little, in my mind, and actually it was like almost right here behind my eyes, but I didn't really know what it was. And they immediately, as soon as I was up, I looked around. The doctor was nowhere in sight. He was gone. And they immediately moved me to have films taken, x-rays taken. And then after they put me in the MRI machine, they immediately put me back in my wheelchair and put me in the car and sent me home. We found out later that when you have a CT myelogram, you're actually supposed to hold completely still almost immediately after the procedure, because when they take that needle out of your spinal cord, if there's when they pull it out, you're supposed to, a little bit of blood's supposed to leak out, and it's supposed to kind of patch things up. And if you're moving around, then you're causing that so that it doesn't patch up and doesn't heal. And of course, we're finding all of this out later, that you can end up with what's called a spinal headache. And I guess women who have epidurals can get them a lot. So I'm going to pause, and I guess if you want to hear the rest of the story, I'm just getting to the interesting stuff now. So listen to the next one.